All right, Halen, let's do it.
Let's do this. How are you, Georgie?
I'm really good, thanks. Nice day here in
Good.
Canada.
Cool. It's a nice day here in Connecticut. I'm gonna party with two more questions today.
Awesome.
And people seem to be getting a lot. So I got two more spectacular questions for you.
All right.
And we're gonna start with this concept of what seems like emotional eating for people, which is like feeling the need to eat afternoon, snacking heavily in the afternoon, usually like the too heavy snack or the nighttime snack. And it's easy to assume, or like just needing to take a break, or like a lack of joy in their life, not being able to deal with a crappy boss, kids that are stressing their out, or having a parent that. But it's probably also worth considering, like, what else could be going on? Are there other biological needs that we have as human beings that might need to be addressed? So what are some of those biological needs so need to be addressed? And how do we then like sort of differentiate if it's the biological stuff that's driving this or the more emotional related types of things?
That's a good question. And it's super common too. I mean, if you say I had, the afternoon munchies or the evening munchies, like you're going to get a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, me too. I've had that happen. That's my trouble time. In fact, if I ask people what's your most difficult time of day, I don't think anybody says like 9 a.m, like, ever. So, so as you mentioned, it can be emotional. It can be just because we've had it with the difficult things that we're doing that day responsibility wise. And we just want to do something that's purely recreational. And eating something could be really enjoyable way to take a break. So, and as you said, it could be social if you go over to your coworker and have a snack with them or coffee with them. If we all weren't working from home, that's another need that could be filled. Physically, it can certainly be that a person's lunch just wasn't large enough. So one of the most straightforward fixes is if you increase the size of lunch and then the afternoon snack urge is weaker, that's a pretty good fix. I would also make sure that there's a good amount of protein in lunch and adequate amount of fat. So a medium amount of fat, somewhere in the network of 10 to 20 grams should be enough to help somebody make it further into the afternoon without getting too snacky.
Um,
Okay, we have resumed recording.
what about sleep? You think that?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I'm really glad that you brought that up. Sleep can really sway our appetite, even just one night. It doesn't have to be night after night of poor sleep habits. But on average, if somebody starts, for the average person, if they have one night with less than 7 hours of sleep, they're likely to have an increased appetite the next day. And it's not coinciding with any increased calorie burn. It's just enhanced appetite. So if you do know that you've gotten less than 7 hours of sleep, you may find that you're feeling a little hungrier. You want to go pretty big on the protein and vegetables and drink some extra water and just recognize like, I'm probably like an exaggerated hunger feeling today. Let me just manage it as best I can. And it's kind of like, in case of a fire, stay calm. Like in case of enhanced appetite, stay calm. It'll be fine. Just go to bed a little earlier, eat some extra protein, you'll be okay. And then maybe hydration too. I have absolutely felt thirsty and had a hankering, especially for a food like cereal with milk that happens to have a lot of fluid in it, or fresh summer fruit that has a lot of fluid to it as well. So yeah, sometimes we're just dehydrated and we're thirsty. So it could be another thing that triggers the afternoon or evening snack cravings.
Got it. It could be sleep. It could be hydration. It could be just purely the lunch or dinner just being too small
Yeah.
and not satisfying. Or the meal itself is not satisfying in the sense because it's missing something.
Right.
flavor, maybe enough, right? Those are sort of the four biggest things.
Yeah, yeah, it could be that, sorry, the video and audio went for a second there. Um, if you have a meal that's really low in fat or really low in protein, those are typically two of the uh, heavy hitters that could lead to somebody getting hungry too soon after.
Without going too far into the rabbit hole, can you
Okay.
tell us a little bit about what goes on and how decreased sleep, efficient sleep impacts?
So, as you may know, our appetites are controlled by various hormones, and these hormones uh, influence the amount of some neurotransmitters in the brain, which give us that perceived sensation of hungry or full. Um, so, as we know, sleep also is associated with a lot of changes in brain activity, and I don't know exactly, we science hasn't really clarified exactly the mechanism behind why short sleep causes some hormones to go up and some to go down. But we do know that leptin levels are lower and ghrelin levels are higher the day after a short night of sleep. And ghrelin is one of the hormones that's actually produced by your stomach walls, and it circulates in your blood, and it tends to spike before meals and trigger people to, start looking for the lunchbox. Um, and it just tends to spike higher and not come back down as low if somebody has a really low night of sleep. So you can kind of just be like, man, I've just kind of felt hungry all day. So you have higher levels of the hunger hormone and then lower levels of hormones that tell your brain you have adequate fuel stores on board. So kind of two main players there.
Awesome, super helpful. Cool. All right, I'm excited for this one. Let's talk about the Clean Plate Club. So many folks have been in an environment where they've been forced to eat everything on their plate, and that's just what they do. And similarly, people feel wasteful if they don't finish everything on their plate. One, like going out to a restaurant, if you don't finish everything on your plate, you're kind of like out on the value, right? You're paying for this food, feel compelled to finish it. And similarly, sometimes happens at my house, there's food left over on the kids' plates, and you feel just compelled to finish the food on the kids' plate instead of putting it in. So can you help us reframe that and give folks a few things to sort of think about and how they can contemplate whether or not that's what value actually is, and you know how putting it in the trash can and putting it in themselves might be the same thing but should be different.
Yeah, that's a really good point there is, you know, it's kind of ingrained in a lot of us not to want to waste anything. We don't want to waste our effort. We don't want to waste time. Generally, we want to use resources effectively. So, if we think like, what is the purpose of food that we, want to use it for? It's to power our bodies, meet our nutrition needs, um, and if we have excess of what we need for our energy needs or for our nutrient needs, it's kind of wasted anyway, even if we eat it. So, as you mentioned, like putting extra food in the trash can means it's not going to fuel your energy needs, but also putting it in your mouth, if you've already eaten enough, it's not going to fuel your energy needs. It will end up just storing in your fat cells. So, so it can be helpful to think about just eating to excess is as wasteful as putting food in the trash can. Now, of course, you can call upon it should you end up on like a deserted island or in a future famine. Um, you can call on the energy stores that you have in your fat cells. So they do perform a very valuable function for us. Um, so you could think about it like you're saving it for another day. But if you want to have less body fat stores, then you probably don't want to keep refilling them. I think most people who are, clean plate eaters either learned it as children because their parents encouraged them, um, or they learned it because they were used to using external things to control their food intake, like if you are macro counting and you're like, I have got my 63 grams of carbs and my 18 grams of fat and my 29 grams of protein here, I've weighed and measured everything, you're going to eat all of it because you budgeted for all of it. You calculated for all of it. Um, so it can take some practice to set that aside and be able to like notice like, I've really had enough here.
Mm.
So some practical strategies, which I give people to try out. One is that you purposely put more food on your plate than you think you want to eat. So you're intending from the outset that some of this food is going to go into the fridge or some of this food is going to go into a Tupperware. And you can even divide it. Like you can even like take your little fork and like make a moat and be like, this is the food I'm not going to eat. This is extra food that I'm just leaving on the plate. And you eat the other food that's on the plate, and then that goes into a Tupperware and into the fridge. Make sure you give yourself a high five for doing it. So that's one practice that some people have found helpful. At restaurants, if the restaurant gives you more food than you think you need, you can do the same thing. You can take your fork and push one of the tacos to the side and decide I'm just going to eat these 2 tacos, and just press pause, drink some water when you get to that halfway point or 2/3 point and see like maybe I don't need that last little bit. And if I can take it home and eat it tomorrow, then I get to enjoy this food twice instead of once. So it really is just a practice. Conceptually and physically, it's not hard to leave bite of food on the plate. It's all about the emotional and mental battle that
Mm.
we engage in when it comes to leaving that food behind. But if you remind yourself, like, this is simple, it's a simple thing to do. And once I do it a time or two, I'm going to have broken that weirdness seal on it because something we've never done is always just like a little bit more intimidating than it really has to be. But once you've left food on the plate once and survived, there's much less resistance to be like, I can leave some food behind again. So, another helpful tip that I'll leave you with is if you're at a restaurant and they've given you more food than you actually need, which is very common, think about what are the best bites and
Mm.
what bite you want to leave behind if some of the food is not going to get eaten. So, for example, you're ordering a hamburger and fries. And so you're eating your hamburger, you're eating the fries, and some of the fries are like kind of soggy because the juice from the burger ran on them. You'd be like, those are the bites that can get left behind. Like you've been demoted, sorry. Or the soggy bottom of the bun. Or when you're finishing the burger and you've eaten like the last bite that has meat and cheese and good stuff in it, and you're just left with 2 pieces of bread. Maybe that's the bite you leave behind. So think about what are the choicest bites and the ones that you're happy to sacrifice to the lean body gods.
Awesome. So in summary, if you feel like you're going to be Tom Hanks in Castaway sometime soon, you shouldn't eat the excess food so you have it
Yeah,
available
load it
to
up.
you. Otherwise, probably not necessary.
Yeah,
And
plane crash in the Andes, way better if you ate all that food.
alternatively, you should expect it's going to be hard the first couple times to leave some food on the plate or to disregard the least desirable bites. But once you do it, you've proven to yourself that you can do it. And so you'll be able to do it again.
100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. If you folks listen are enjoying this, you can certainly, and we'd love for you to feed us some questions. We'd be happy to answer those. And if you feel like you would benefit from more focused and personalized work with either of us, you should reach out and we'd be happy to help.
Totally. It's what we do.
So thanks, Georgie.
See you next time.
See you later.